Hello, everyone. Hello, and I warmly welcome you to the Energized Empowered Professional Women Summit. I'm so excited. This is our second session of day one, and we are chatting with Eliza Collins today. But first, I would love to do a little bit of housekeeping and just say that we are live on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Oh my God, three platforms all at once. I'm so excited. And my beautiful assistant, Gia, will be on the comment section. So if you have any issues at the moment, just pop your comments in and she'll help you out straight away. If you're on Facebook, there's a special way of exit. If you want to your name to be shown to access it, Gio, just put that in the comments. It's all technology to me. But yes, if you're on LinkedIn, YouTube, please all of you, just feel free to pop in your comments, chuck in love hearts, chuck in emojis, all these beautiful things. We're going to have a Q&A session after this. So if you've got any questions, any comments, let us know in the comment section. So we are now at 1 minute past 9 here in Australia. It's a beautiful sunny day. I am so grateful for all of you that are here. So grateful that I have the opportunity to organize this summit and to interview some beautiful people. So over the next 5 days, the Energized Empowered Professional Women Summit, we are a dedicated group of women from all over the globe who are here to help you leave behind exhaustion, frustration, and burnout, to confidently take back your life with renewed energy and vitality. And we're going to do this by having these real and raw conversations that we'll have with Eliza after this. And, after this, you'll learn how to communicate, identify, heal, and prevent burnout. And also, we are here to support you with our Facebook group, and also some amazing bonuses from all our speakers and everyone here with breath work, everything. So go to the website, check it out. It's all there. But I want to start our chat with Eliza Collins. So, hi, Eliza. How you going?
How are you?
I'm good. Welcome to the summit. Thank you for being so generous with your time and your love. It's been such a pleasure with working with you to come to this point. You've been so open to my to everything that I've asked, and thank you so much from the bottom of my heart.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. I'm really, really thrilled to be here. I know I'm in amazing company. It's been really great to get to know some of the other speakers through social media and the email chains that we've had going. So it's really phenomenal what you're doing. I really appreciate your time and passion for healing burnout.
Thank you very much. It's been amazing, absolutely amazing. And I think one of the biggest things I have learned from doing this, and the biggest thing is our friendships, the friendships and the teamwork that we've been doing. When women get together, things happen. That's what I was always told, and you know what, it does. So, and so I would love to introduce Eliza. I came across her work, as I knew how important, like, a combination of both Eastern and medicine was important in healing burnout. And then I also was looking at boundaries as well. And then I came across some of Eliza's podcasts and writings on boundaries. I went, oh my God, she's amazing. I need to ask her if we could chat during the summit, so she could share her experiences and just her story as well, which I found really, really it just touched me. So thanks, Eliza, for saying yes.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so excited.
Okay, so let's go. So Eliza is a burnout expert and functional health coach, professionally known as the Burnout Witch. I love that title. I'm going to ask you why. I know, but I'm going to ask you. She works one-on-one with clients to get our survival mode, optimize their health, and live with a greater sense of ease and flow. Oh. She uses her combined backgrounds in both Eastern and biomedicines, including functional medicine, acupuncture, and Chinese herbal medicine, hypnosis, and more, to approach healing from a perspective that seeks to fully integrate mind, body, and spirit. So, after experiencing and recovering from burnout, she made it her mission to help others identify their values, explore their boundaries, and bring a sense of balance. So when she's not working with clients, she's consuming all forms of music, reading, sharpening her tarot card skills. Interesting enough, that's kind of what I'm in at the moment. So in fact, I love this. And crafting custom cocktails from random ingredients in her pantry.
In a former life, I was a bartender, so the mixology dies hard. I still enjoy it.
I'm a scientist, so I love to mix stuff together too and go, oh, is this gonna work?
Same.
Boom. Actually, it's come up. So yes, Eliza, let's start by listening to your story and how you came personally to start helping people specifically with burnout.
Yeah, absolutely. I ended up in my burnout story. A lot of the way a lot of people I think do is I didn't realize I was burnt out. It took somebody else pointing that out to me. So I had childhood trauma. My biological mother passed away when I was 13 months old. So I was a little over a year. Oh. And that we know any kind of trauma affects the brain and the body. Childhood trauma in particular, pre-verbal trauma, when we don't have the resources to wrap our heads around what has happened, can really create some interesting patterns later in life and coping mechanisms that may work really, really well through like teens and early 20s, but start to break down as we get more into adulthood. And so the things that seemed to help me when I was younger, like people pleasing, like imposter syndrome and trying to do a whole lot more and be better and really be an overachiever, those things are valued from students and children. You're a go-getter. You go the extra mile, you do the extra work, you get the A's and not the B's, which, by the way, my family did not tell me that that's what I needed to do. If I had come home with a B, they would have been delighted. But that was what I internalized because my mother died so young. If people are going to love me, I need to provide value. I am inherently not valuable just being who I am, which is not true. We all are. So those patterns that kind of served me well in adolescence really started to break down when I got through acupuncture school and I started my business. Because as a business owner and an entrepreneur, which we were not taught how to do, I was taught how to be an acupuncturist, not a business owner. I was approaching a new business with these extraordinarily high bars of perfectionism and practicing this medicine that in some instances is 5,000 years old, feeling like I hadn't earned the right to occupy space where I was. And so all of that was what kind of created this roiling pot of burnout that eventually spilled over in 2019. I contract with an outside organization that sent me a lot of referrals, and they were doing some internal restructuring. So they weren't referring out quite as much. And that meant that about half of my client base dried up overnight. And I contacted a colleague of mine who had started businesses in places where she didn't know anybody. I had moved to a new city when I started my business and I didn't know anybody. So I called her and I said, you were really successful. You have the secret sauce. What did you do? And she said, oh, I burned out twice and you're burnt out and we're going to fix that. So she was also getting into burnout coaching at that point. And I was one of her first clients. And she worked with me to heal my people pleasing pattern and figure out where my energy leaks were and work on my boundaries and decide what kind of business did I want based on my values. Because my business does not look like every other acupuncture business out there. It's structured very differently because it's more in alignment with who I am. But it took recovery to understand that. And in the process of, the imposter syndrome, and I was doing constant continuing education, I had become a functional medicine practitioner. I became certified in hypnosis. Most recently, I have started going down the path of doing psychedelic guide work. So psychedelic preparation and integration coaching with individuals. that resulted in me having this really unique toolbox of Eastern and Western approaches, of intellectual and somatic approaches. And so I've got this really nice kind of package of things that I can pull from to help others where they're at. So if somebody needs a more intellectual approach, I now have that. If they need a more somatic approach, which most of us in burnout do, I have those skills now. And so as I started to sort of put all of that together, my coach said, you could really take up space in the burnout community because you're not doing things like everybody else. You can do functional lab testing and help figure out what's going on with somebody's gut microbiome that might be contributing to their burnout. And so that's kind of how we got into the burnout recovery realm.
Oh, wow. That's incredible. Yeah, I have a friend who's in the gut microbiome research, and so this really makes just connects with me so much. And also that the people pleasing, the high achieving, in order to be loved. I lost my mom when I was 13. And one of the biggest things that was I good enough? Why did she leave me? Because she left me because she had cancer. I mean, it wasn't because of me, but it doesn't matter. The emotional, so that subconscious level where you go and then you start to disconnect because it's you just going, if I have to be someone else so that people won't reject me. And so you're on this continuous cycle of is someone going to like me? Are they not? And one of the things that I really had to learn was boundaries, and I would love you to be able to speak to us about boundaries and how that's important and in burnout, in healing, even what has caused burnout in the first place with us not having enough boundaries or not realizing what our boundaries should be.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is such a huge topic, and there are so many places to start with it. A lot of what I think about with boundaries is much of our coping mechanisms are either things that we figure out on our own or things that have been given to us by the people around us, which are not always the healthiest. And so if you don't have healthy internal family dynamics or internal dynamics in whatever system you're growing up in, it's going to be harder to learn how to set healthy boundaries because you're probably going to be not have those modeled for you. So one of the things that we think about with boundaries is feelings of resentment. So when you get frustrated, particularly with, yourself or other people, that's a nice place to realize that maybe there's a boundary that could be here. So an example from this in my own life where I wasn't holding an internal boundary, and I'll get into the difference between internal and external boundaries in a minute, was when I started my business, I was very nervous that if I didn't get back to somebody the same day, I would lose that client. So a client or a potential client would call me or text me at like 6 p.m. on a Sunday, and I would call them back. And I started getting really resentful about, why are these people calling me? Don't they understand that I have a life outside of this? And they probably do. And they also probably don't think that I'm going to call them back on a Sunday night. Unless I work on Sundays, why would I do that? So I was getting frustrated with these people that weren't doing anything wrong, but I wasn't holding the internal boundary of just not checking my messages. So once I understood why I was resentful at people who wanted to pay me to do my job, it helped me set the internal boundary of, okay, if this is my time, it's my responsibility to protect it. So that was an internal boundary that I set, but nobody had modeled that for me. So I ended up getting that through working. I ended up processing through that on my own, but that's the type of work that I ended up doing with my coach is, where am I resentful? Where am I frustrated? Where are the tasks that I don't like doing in my life? An email pops up from somebody and I'm like, oh God, I don't want to answer that. I just stop answering emails at certain times of day. I really didn't doing the insurance billing for my practice. So I outsourced that to somebody that I knew and could trust, who had experience in that area, that would do it well. And as an entrepreneur and a people pleaser and somebody who felt like they had to be doing everything because they didn't want to burden somebody else, or they didn't feel like they could trust somebody else to do it, it really forced me to take a look at how I want to be able to delegate my time, which was really hard to let go of, because that meant I had to set internal boundaries with myself and start external boundaries with the world around me.
Yep. I can see that. And I can so relate to that. Like when I was setting up my laboratory, and it was the first malaria laboratory that studied the whole life cycle of the malaria parasite. And it was completely. It was like it took so much of my effort, but in the end, after it was set up, I could not let go of that, of the whole. Like I had to do all the little things, even to cleaning the floor, all the way to the high level stuff, because I did not know how to set the boundaries. And then because I didn't set the boundaries, what would people do? Well, she's doing it, so I don't have to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's
you get resentful.
Yes, 100%. And that's often the dynamic that we see, is that the people around us that we might be resentful of don't even realize that we're resentful, because they're like, well, they're doing it, so why would I come in when they seem to be doing it and they seem to be fine? And then we don't speak up, and then we explode, or it comes out someplace else. That's usually never the straw that breaks the camel's back. It's something else.
And that's where frustration and just exhaustion comes in, because you're constantly being upset about someone else not doing it, or why are they doing this to me, putting that story behind it. And it's not, everyone's just doing what they're doing. And I would say like 99.9% of the time, no one does it because they're out to get you or anything. But we have made that an issue. And it's not a judgment. It's just an awareness. That's how it works. And it's okay. And with this awareness, we can work through it, as you have done in your recovery, working out, what we truly want, what our values are, and to take, I love this word, radical responsibility for ourselves instead of someone else. As a child, that's a little bit different. But as we're growing up, we have this awareness, and what we were as a child doesn't work anymore. So
absolutely. And I think, I like the idea of that radical awareness, because it is in alignment with value. You have to know yourself very, very well to be able to set healthy boundaries. So if you don't know what's important to you, and you don't know what you value, you're not going to be able to set boundaries. I am an introvert. I'm a big introvert, in spite of the fact that I'm very much a people person. I was in bands for many years. I've performed. I've been on stage. I was a dancer. And so people are like, oh, you're an extrovert. I'm like, ooh, no. Social things drain my battery. So I need to recharge. So I need a lot of alone time. And sometimes various people in my life who don't need that much alone time take it very personally. And so knowing myself and knowing what I need helps me explain to them that this is not a judgment on who you are as a person, or how much I care about you, or how much I enjoy spending time with you. It's just that my social battery is different from yours. And that's a boundary that I'm going to be a little more protective of, because the more I go out in the world and the more I let the world drain me, even if it's fun, even if it's enjoyable, I'm going to start getting bitter. I'm going to start getting. And so being able to gently hold that boundary, something that my coach said that I really loved, is boundaries are firm and kind. And something that a therapist that I work with said that I really love, this is one of my favorite phrases, is a soft no is not a weak no.
Beautiful.
So when you tell someone no, you can do that kindly. You can say, I'm going to say no to that. Thank you for inviting me. I would love to spend time with you at another time. Schedule something for when you have more energy. But a hard no shuts down any additional conversation. And that can be the really tricky thing when we start learning boundaries, because when we don't have boundaries and then we start setting boundaries, we can be like, I'm going to set all the boundaries and everyone has to respect them. That's a real culture shock for people who are not used to someone setting boundaries. So when we do start to set boundaries, it's nice to start with yourself. Do some of those things, like, when I decided to not get back to clients on weekends, and when I decided to outsource my billing to somebody else, those were things that I did. Those were boundaries that I set with myself, because I didn't have to say no to anybody but me. I didn't have to say yes to anybody but me. That was a little bit easier work to do. So if you're trying to figure out where to start, or you feel like you're not good at setting boundaries, decide those for yourself, and don't punish yourself if you don't always hold them, because you're not perfect. It's okay.
Yeah.
But that's a good place to start. And then once you do like a values exercise, I have one that I think, Vanessa, I sent you. If not, I can send you that link so that everybody can have access to it. Do a values exercise, figure out what's important to you. Because once you understand what's important, you understand where your boundaries are. Those will help set your boundaries for you so that you don't have to stress about them quite so much.
Yep. Yeah, that's fantastic. Knowing those values, and I love that. A soft no is what was it again?
A soft no is not a weak no.
Okay, a soft no. I'm using technology. Is I can't type. It's not.
It's actually, I have a graphic of it. It's going to be going up on my Instagram in March, so I can tag you on or send it to you. Because the minute that he said that, I was like, yes, a soft no is not a weak no. It can be kind, it can be gentle, but it can also be clear.
Yep. And people can feel that when you talk to them about it. You know, when they can feel that you are genuinely saying no, rather than no.
Yeah. If somebody says, "Hey, can you take the garbage out?" No. Versus, "I can't right now. I have to go to an appointment, or I'm late for whatever. But I really need you to do it because I can't do it. I understand and I hear you, and I know that that's frustrating right now. And I hear that you asked, but I can't. So I'm going to say no right now." Very different experiences.
Okay. Yeah, that is a really good thing for people to understand too. And this is the really exciting thing is we talked about shame before, and now we're talking about boundaries, and these are things that are the most crossed when we are in burnout. We're people pleasers, we're perfectionists, all these things that we think are good, and then they're actually they're okay until they're not. So
exactly. Mostly because they work for other people better than they work for us.
Yeah. So I actually I sort of switch things slightly. I'm curious, there is listen to a bit of what you've said before in other interviews, and I would like to bring then there's some questions on what's the difference between depression and burnout. And I think that would that's an interesting topic that I would love to unpack with you, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So depression and burnout are different things that can occur together, but don't necessarily. So when my coach was burnt out, she was not depressed. She was just burnt out. She didn't have a history of depression. When I was burnt out, I did have a history of depression. And so those two things did occur together for me. So the way that I usually conceptualize it is that burnout is typically centered around specific circumstances. It might be work, if you're a caregiver for a sick family member or an elderly parent or a special needs child, or sometimes just a child. You can get burnout around those types of things, but your relationships are pretty good. Life feels okay. You're just really wrung out. It's usually situational. Depression, on the other hand, tends to, I think of it like a weighted blanket. So it just kind of impacts everything. And sometimes when they occur together, it can be a little difficult to tell what's depression and what's burnout. So it's good to take a look at like, okay, is everything just muted? Is the volume turned down on everything? Or is it, I'm really struggling at work, or I'm really struggling in my relationship, or I'm really struggling in this caregiving role? So depression tends to be a little more broad spectrum. Burnout tends to be a bit more focused, but they can occur together.
Yep. Okay. And so, leading into that, then what, I would love to know, how you have, how you help people now, what are you, what's, you take, tests and all kinds of things, and then you integrate both the Eastern philosophy, Eastern medicine and Western medicine. And just for everyone who somatic, to define what somatic is, so that people understand what that means. These are I would love to just hear all this. This is so great.
I know, it's kind of like a kid in a candy store.
I know.
That's how I feel when I approach it with clients. So my approach is multifaceted, and it really centers around addressing both the body and the brain, and they're not disconnected. We often think about them that way. We even think of internal systems as separate systems. We think of the cardiovascular system, which is your heart and your blood vessels. We think of the gastrointestinal system, which is your intestines and your digestion and your stomach. And we have specialists for these things. So if we have acid reflux or we have irritable bowel syndrome, we see a gastroenterologist. But our emotional state can make those more challenging. The foods that we eat can make them more challenging. The foods that we don't eat can make them more challenging. So there are, a lot of things that go into this. So I do try and take a multifaceted approach. So from the sort of medical side of things, the functional medicine and Eastern medicine, I can run lab tests to see if you have vitamin or mineral deficiencies, or if you have an imbalance of your gut bacteria. We've got very good research that indicates that the balance of your gut bacteria heavily impacts your mental state. So if your gut bacteria is off, if you don't have enough good bacteria, or you have too much not so great bacteria, that can affect your mental state. That can relate to anxiety and depression. It can make those things worse. So I take a look, I pop the hood, and we actually look at biologically what's going on underneath. And then the other approach that I take is doing somatic work with individuals, because trying to do too much at once with burnout recovery is generally going to make people feel more burnt out. And one of the issues that we have during burnout is that we don't feel safe in our bodies. We're in that kind of constant fight, flight, freeze, fawn situation where our systems are constantly on edge. And to even get somebody out of that can make the body feel unsafe. So we have to take really small, kind of bite-sized chunks out of doing that. And so we start with things like yoga nidra. We start with certain types of breathing techniques, breath holding, inhaling and exhaling in certain ways. We do body scans. We do things to get you back in your body in a slow, easy way so that it can kind of bring your nervous system back online in a more regulated way. And part of the benefit of doing this alongside functional medicine and Eastern medicine is that if you have something like, I usually go to vitamin D because I live in the Northeast in the United States, which is historically a rather cloudy, overcast place. We see a lot of vitamin D deficiency here. And so particularly in the winter months, which we're in right now, we don't have the benefit of going outside and in a t-shirt and shorts and soaking up vitamin D from the environment. We can get that in the summer, but it's limited. So for somebody dealing with vitamin D deficiency, you may have brain fog, you may have really low energy, you may have memory issues. You can get that with too much vitamin D as well, which is why we don't want to supplement you until the end of time. But being able to balance that out may give you enough energy to be able to start engaging with the somatic practices. And all of that put together creates a scenario where your nervous system can regulate a little bit more easily, where it's easier for you to make decisions. It's easier for you to set boundaries. Things that felt really overwhelming before don't feel quite as overwhelming.
Yep. Oh, I completely resonate with this 100%. And that was part of my journey too. And I really didn't have anyone like you I didn't know of anyone that could have that. If they did, I would be like, yes, me, give me. Because it was just bit by bit, understanding, how to eat properly first, and then how do I then one of my friends, she's in the food and mood center here in Deakin University, and she talked about the gut microbiome. Then it triggered something in me, and then so I guess when the student is willing, the teachers come forth.
And it's interesting too that we talk about eating well. I'm very particular about making sure that I don't try and adjust somebody's diet too much, because when we have imbalances, it can be very easy. Like one of the things that a lot of my functional medicine colleagues use is called a Whole30, which is where you cut out a lot of inflammatory foods. So you cut out like dairy, all sorts of grains. So like wheat, but also rice and, lentils and things like that. Dairy, grains, alcohol, sugar, and there are a couple other like soy and something else that I'm missing. So pretty much anything that could possibly be inflammatory, you pull that out. So you basically eat meat if you eat it, fish, fruits, and veggies for 30 days. That is really hard to do on a burnt out brain.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's not the first thing that I go to. Like when we talk about adjusting the gut microbiome, like, yeah, it's really good to get inflammatory foods out of there. But sometimes the only thing that you can do is cook a huge container of rice and just eat that with various things for 7 days because it takes the least amount of energy. So when we're doing these types of interventions, like it's really good to be mindful of that and know that that's an option for you when you're back online. And when you have the resources to be able to do that, but not taking these huge leaps all at once or biting off more than we can chew. So it's really got to be a stepwise process.
And we're tempted to do that because we're all type A. We want to be fixed tomorrow. Actually, yesterday, thanks.
We want better. We want to feel better. And so when somebody says you can eat this thing and it only takes 30 days, and then you get 3 days in and you're like, I will cut someone for a donut right now. Like, which has happened to me. You know, I think I have only completed, have I ever completed a full one? No. I got to a whole 27. And then my partner and I were having an anniversary and we were going out of town overnight. And I was like, I'm going to eat dessert and have a glass of wine. So I could have completed that one. But again, part of taking care of myself in that moment, having been through burnout recovery, is saying, I've done the good thing well enough to let myself be present with my partner.
Yes.
So, you know, those types of decisions become easier when we go through burnout recovery, but not putting too much on your plate first is one of the most important things.
So little steps. And this is consistent. They did a bit of a study as well with a whole group of people who have had burnout and are recovering from burnout. And the biggest thing was baby steps, because we all want to take these big leaps. We want to feel better because there's so much pain involved with this and so exhausting. And we just want to go out there, go and do the things that soothe us again. But we know those things that soothe us, like our jobs and everything that we identify ourselves with in the external world, is not serving us and is causing, and so it becomes this humongous loop of thing. So that's fantastic. So that's what you do. I will put up your so here is all of Eliza's website, her Instagram, TikTok, everything. You can connect with her. And all of these are in the website for the summit. So go in there. We've got her bonus as well with the values exercise. This is really, really important. Your values help you set your boundaries. It help you set a radical responsibility. It helps you to show kindness. And it also really helps you to communicate to people. Why? Who am I? You know, unapologetically, really.
Yeah, absolutely. What I found with it is that it brings in an element of empathy, because when you understand yourself, it creates space for you to understand where other people are coming from. Because whenever we ask something of someone, there's an emotion underneath it. So it's not just this thing of like, I want you to do the thing because I want you to do the thing. Sometimes maybe, but most of the time there's an emotion underneath that. And so somebody saying, I want you to take the garbage out for me, is saying, I want you to show up for me. I feel unsupported, or whatever the case may be. There's something underneath that. So being able to see through the frustration of being like, oh my God, why can't you just take out the garbage? And being like, okay, like I see you right now. I see what you're asking for and I care about you. And also, no.
No, that's absolutely fantastic. You also you do some EFT as well. Do you some EFT? Do you do that with your clients as well?
Yes, that's one of my favorite tools.
Oh, awesome! I was just wondering if you would be open just to do a quick one with us. It's a couple of minutes just to show people what it's about, and let's and to do this together. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a EFT exercise banner, and then
I have a link to that as well, so I can send that to you if you would like to add that to.
Okay.
I've got like a PDF for it, so definitely.
Yeah,
right.
so we'll put that as a bonus for everybody as well. So
Perfect.
let's try the EFT, and I'll leave it to Eliza to explain it all to you.
Great. So EFT is called the Emotional Freedom Technique. And it's a really, really great tool that's very simple and very accessible when we're feeling particularly anxiety. So it's those sort of like higher vibration emotions that really kind of pull us out of our bodies. It's a fantastic way to get you back into your body. So one of the things that I used to have a real problem with is public speaking. That still makes me pretty nervous. So that is a scenario for me that would be a good thing to do before I go on stage or before I speak at something like this if I felt the need to. And we're going to start by giving that a number from 1 to 10. Usually not my favorite scale, but it's easy to access in the moment, particularly subjectively, if you're doing it inside your own head. So let's say I'm about to go on stage and I'm feeling really nervous and my anxiety is at like an 8. I'm not going to want to bring it down to a 0 because a little bit of nervousness is good for performance. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my glasses off to do this so that everybody can see, is I'm going to tap on certain points. And these are actually acupuncture points, which when I learned this technique was really fun for me as an acupuncturist. So I'm going to breathe deeply in and out as I'm doing this. And what I want to say is something like, for me, because it's anxiety about public speaking, I would say, let it go. If you're feeling very unsafe in a moment emotionally, like you've had a kind of a big trigger and you're like, I don't feel like safe right now, I've previously said, I am safe. So it's just kind of a little mantra to soothe your nervous system. And you're going to start by tapping in the center of your forehead, kind of at your third eye. And you don't want to tap super hard, just enough to kind of hear it inside your skull. And you're going to say, let it go. The next one you're going to do is by the side of your eye. Same thing. Let it go. You're going to do underneath your eye. Let it go. You're going to do your chin, the center of your chin. Let it go. And then you're going to do just below the soft point in the hollow of your throat on your sternum, on that chest bone. Let it go. And then the last thing that you're going to do is the wrist that isn't tapping. You're going to hold that up. In my case, it's my left wrist. I think it kind of looks like the right one on the screen. You're going to take the tapping hand. You're going to wrap that around the wrist. You're going to breathe in and out. And say something to the effect of peace or ease or relax. Just pick a word that resonates with you. And so for me, I've noticed that go from like an 8 to a 4. So you take that little internal temperature, see how you're feeling. And if it's at a 4 and you want it to be lower, you go through the process again. So we start back up at the top, in the forehead. Let it go. And you can say that out loud or inside. By the side of the eye, on your temple. Let it go. Underneath your eye. Let it go. The chin. Let it go. The chest. Let it go. And then hold the wrist. Peace. And that's brought that down to about a 1 for me. And you can do that as many times as you need to. If it goes from an 8 to a 7 to a 6, take it down to wherever you want it to be in that moment.
Wow. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's pretty amazing how quickly that works too. Like I wasn't actually feeling anxious, but it just tends to ground you and it works fairly quickly.
Yeah, it does. What I found personally for me is also with the tapping to connect with my body, like as well, because we're so frenetic that we don't even know that we're hungry or we need to go to the toilet. A few times like, oh, I need to go to the toilet after hours of.
I love that you bring that up because for anybody watching this right now, when you have to pee. Go pee. The email can wait. You
Yep.
don't have to wait until lunch. We're not in grade school anymore. You probably don't have to raise your hand to go necessarily. But ignoring the body's signals is part of what gets us into this problem in the first place, is we're not listening to our bodies when we need to eat and when we need to pee and when we need to sleep. So it becomes
Yeah.
easier for us to not listen to our bodies when our boundaries are being crossed
Yeah.
and we're running ourselves ragged and when
Yeah.
we're about to get sick.
Oh wow, yeah, exactly. And this tapping not only did it help to really ground me,
Mhm.
but I found that it was an exercise of, now I'm tapping here, so I can feel this here, and I can feel this here. So this is very, part of the human needs is security, and so
Mhm.
this feels like I'm secure. Not
Mhm.
feels like, I am secure because I'm holding myself.
You
I
are.
am
You're
the one
holding yourself.
responsible. Yep, you're holding
Exactly.
yourself.
And the
Yep.
other thing that I would say with this exercise is practice this a couple of times throughout the day when you're not stressed out, because you want to get used to doing these types of things in moments when you are stressed out. So we
Yep.
practice for when we are stressed out, because it's
Yep.
very difficult I have friends who are martial artists. When that adrenaline goes, it's very hard to do the things that you want to do. Your
Yes.
body just goes into a pre-programmed mode. So if
Yep.
you program yourself to know that I can do this, to program yourself with a 30-second or 1-minute breathing exercise, that's something that I had to do. I set it on my watch. I actually told myself, stop 4 times a day during your workday and just breathe for 60
Yep.
seconds, so that I
Yep.
knew that when I was stressed out, I would just start doing that. So things
Mhm.
like EFT tapping, breathing, practice those when you're not stressed out.
Yep. And it's also a form of rest. So rest, all of us, we hear rest, we have to lie on the couch. We have to, I don't know, go do something, like sleep,
Mm-hmm.
which that's a really important part. I'm not saying that's not part of rest, but an element of rest that we forget is actually sitting down mindfully eating is now number one. That's rest. And wow, yeah.
I
And
was
then
a, I
number
was a
two,
medical technician, and so we did not mindfully eat ever. We just ate whenever
no,
we could. And
exactly,
it took
exactly.
a long time to break. It took about 10 years to break that habit.
Yep, yep. And a lot of people in the medical profession, particularly in the last few years, have had to cop that.
Yeah.
And this is why, this I hope this summit reaches a lot of them, because this is our love to you for being such an amazing support for our community in the last few years. Thank you very much for everybody. Yeah, and so this really helps ground you. You can even do that while you're standing in line, for instance, at the supermarket. It's not another thing to just go do that, huh? And I find that doing something like, just breathing in line consciously is a bit
And
of
if you
rest. So
don't,
when I sorry,
oh, sorry,
keep
go ahead.
going. Yeah, so
Uh,
when you get to the checkout chick, you'll be like, how are you? And she'll be like, she'll feel your love. Anyway, sorry, Eliza, I was just like
I was
off
going to
off the
say, if
line.
you're doing something like that and you're self-conscious about actually tapping, the person who taught me that, who was my hypnosis instructor, he said you can just kind of just
Oh.
rub here, because to anybody else in line, it'll just like, oh, maybe she's got a migraine, or she's trying to stave off a headache. It doesn't have to be that obvious. It can be really subtle.
Okay, amazing. Thank you for such a beautiful, simple yet powerful tool that we can use in everywhere and anywhere. It doesn't really matter whatsoever. And again, it's building that resilience, building that muscle. We have been doing all what does not serve us for decades. We we're not going to sort of rewire our nervous system overnight. And so it takes a lot of kindness and compassion for the moment to give us ourselves space for this. And so little things are the best things in the world. So just very quickly, and I would love to. I ask each of my, if you were 7 or 8 at the moment, right, or you had the opportunity to go back in time and talk to and speak to your little girl who is in the corner in a particular frame of mind, what would you say to her?
I would say, I see you. I see how much this hurts or how hard this is, and that's okay. You can feel that way. It's okay. And you don't have to rush yourself to feel a different way. And I will sit with you while you feel that way. And I'll just be here.
Thank you.
It's interesting that you asked that question because my partner's kids are 6 and 8. And so that's actually something that I did. One of them was like, you know, he was upset and he was struggling. Yep. And that's pretty much what I did. I sat there and I said, I can see how upset you are. I get it. This sucks. It's okay. It's okay for it to suck. It's okay to feel the way you feel. Something that I feel like we as a society have a really hard time doing is just holding space for people to have difficult feelings. We want to fix, particularly people in helping professions, in the sciences, in healthcare, in coaching. We feel it's our responsibility to fix people. And it's not necessarily. It's to help give them tools, but it's to help them fix themselves.
Yep. It just gives them love, I think. And yeah, our purpose is not to fix others. It's to give them the love that they need. And simple, profound, yet sometimes it takes a little bit of work on everyone's part. So yeah, I really, really am so grateful for your sharing your experiences, that beautiful practice exercise, and everything that we've talked about today. Thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate your friendship.
Oh.
And to everyone out there, there's Eliza's stuff is on the website. Have a look. And yeah, sorry, I just cut you off. Oh my God.
No, it's just me. Like I'm so thrilled to be here. I'm so thrilled to know you. So thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to connect with you and everyone who's here. It means a lot to me.
Thanks, everyone. And please share this interview. It's on YouTube. It's on the Facebook group. It's on LinkedIn. It's all there for you to share with someone who needs to hear this right now. Not to fix them, but to show them that they are loved and they are cared for. So much love. We'll see you all in the next interview. And thank you so much.